480 soldiers trapped. A female pilot risks everything. What pushed Natalia Dyer to fly into a kill box, and why did the radios go silent right when she found them? The hangar lights flickered like nervous eyes. Natalia Dyer pulled her flight gloves tight. No music, no ceremony, just the checklist in her head and the rumor in her gut. The rumor said 480 soldiers were pinned in a mountain bowl. No air cover, broken comms. A valley shaped like a mouth that only swallowed. She touched the skin of her helicopter. Metal cold. Rivets real. The machine had saved her before. It had also tried to kill her twice. Trust was an uneasy truce. The briefing had been thin. Satellite passes showed smoke. A grid of heat signatures. Too many of them didn't move. The ground route was a maze of switchbacks and dead ends. Artillery could not see into the bowl without hitting the friendlies. Whoever designed that valley had a cruel sense of humor. Command says wait. That's what the crew chief told her. He didn't argue. She didn't either. Waiting would turn men into numbers. Waiting was a choice dressed as caution. Natalia walked the line. Skids, tail, blades. She checked for play in the links. Tiny hairline cracks in paint. Everything that could scream before it failed. Her hands moved faster than her thoughts. Her thoughts were already in the bowl. She had flown dust storms in Al Anbar. Night water off a frigate in winter. Once a landing zone lit only by muzzle flash. This felt worse. She did not know why until later. A radio hissed. Not hers. A guard unit at the perimeter gate. 2 words cut through the static. Eyes. Moving. Nothing else. She signed the panel with a knuckle. A habit. Be clever, she whispered to the machine. The machine said nothing. Machines are honest that way. Her co-pilot Singh climbed in. Eyes red, jaw set. He was younger than she liked for a mission like this. But he had steady hands. A gift in bad air. They lifted into a gray morning that felt like the inside of a bruise. Wind shoved the rotor disc. The altimeter shivered. She trimmed again, and let the nose fall into the valley's dark throat. The first ridge came hard. The second was a wall. They skimmed the ribs of the mountain and slid into a pocket of dead air. The helicopter sank like a thought you don't want to finish. Natalia punched power and kept her breath slow. The bowl opened without warning. It was huge. A stadium built by earthquakes. Smoke crawled along the floor. She saw shapes. Clusters of helmets. Mouths of caves. Lines of rock that could be anything until they started shooting. Singh marked a grid on the tablet. 480 if the count is real, he said. Real, she said back. She didn't look at him. She was listening to the wind. It had a new edge. The edge had teeth. Rounds traced past the nose and stitched the far slope. Not at them. At someone lower. Friendlies were moving. Not fast enough, Natalia banked. The bowl threw her back. The wind spiraled like a drain. She gave the aircraft a new body with her hands. Long and narrow. Less meat to hit. She opened the internal net. Breaker team status. Silence. She tried again on the old frequency. A voice broke through as if it had climbed a mile of wire. Down to. Low on everything. If you can see the white tarp, that's us. Copy white, she said. She saw the tarp. It was not white anymore. It was storm brown and stubborn. She guided the nose toward it. A line of stones shifted near the ridgeline. Not stones. A machine gun nest adjusting its view. Natalia dropped the collective and let gravity pretend it was her friend. The disc bit clean air and the aircraft knifed into the bowl's shadow. Someone below threw a smoke can. Orange. It curled like a question mark. Her radio cracked, then died. Carrier only, no voice. Silence shaped like a scream. The gun on the ridge found them. If this pulled you in, tap subscribe for more female pilot rescue stories, real combat extractions, and 480 soldier survival breakdowns. New episodes every week. The first burst hit high. Rock dust bloomed above the canopy. The second burst learned fast. It came lower. Natalia slid the helicopter sideways. A crab against the cliff. The rounds passed where the windshield had been. Singh flinched. She didn't. Flinching waist angles, she needed a blind. The bowl had few. A twisted ledge cut into the western face. She slipped into its shadow and felt the air go cold. Package? Singh asked. Later, she said. We win the sky first. The sky wasn't big enough. The wind had a swirl that made every correction feel late. She took the lag into her hands and flew 2 seconds ahead. You don't pilot here. You predict below. A cluster of soldiers tried to drag a man with a ruined leg. A tarp snapped and failed. They dragged anyway. They had learned something in the night. You move or you drown. Natalia spotted the gun line that hurt them most, not the showy ridge gun. A small belt fed tucked under a lip of rock, the kind you miss if you believe your first fear. She put the nose down and skimmed the slope. The helicopter's shadow frightened birds out of a thorny tree. The gunner tracked too slow. She had time for one pass. She didn't waste it on heroics. No looping dives. No bravado. Just a clean, ugly strafe from the door gun and a pop of smoke to steal the view. Singh fed the belt. Short bursts. Stitch, stitch, silence. White tarp, move, she called. Her radio stayed dead, but the men moved anyway. They had been waiting for any kind of weather that looked like luck. A mortar thumped. The bowl answered with a cough of dust. The round walked in strange hops as if testing stones for tenderness. She could not outfly a good mortar team in a bowl like this. She could lie to them. She did. Natalia flashed east then west, low and loud. She showed the mortar team something to believe in. They believed. They placed rounds on the ghost of her path while she hid the column behind a rock lip that didn't look like cover until it was. Singh pointed. North culvert. A wash of rain had cut a path through the wall. A lane, narrow but true. If you got a line of men through it, you could disappear a battalion. That's our throat, she said. He knew what that meant. She had to hold it open. She hovered dirty, skids a whisper above stone. Rotor-wash filled the cut with angry air. It also smothered dust. The men could move unseen. Ammo was real now. Fuel was realer. She did the math and hated it. She had minutes. They needed hours. A figure waved below and pointed up valley. Another group. Separated by a seam of fallen cliff. They tried to cross it. The seam crumbled. One man vanished to the waist and screamed without sound. Natalia had two choices. Save the cut or save the seam. Saving both was a poem. Poems don't live long in valleys. She picked the seam. Hold the throat, she told Singh. He took the controls. His hands were careful. Good. He would need that. She leaned out the door, belt on, and threw a rope like a lasso across shale. The trapped soldier caught it wrong, slipped, caught it again the way you catch forgiveness, hard and with both hands. Rounds cracked off the tail boom. A new gun had found her. She felt the strike through her boots. A vibration with intent. Up, she said. Not yet, Singh answered. He fought the same wind that had troubled her. It liked to twist you just when pride got loud, they heaved. The soldier came free like a tooth you don't want to lose but must. He rolled toward the column, face muddy, eyes white, alive enough to curse. Natalia took back the aircraft. The cut still held. Men poured through it in threes and fours, low, heads turned toward the sound of home they made up in their minds. Fuel. Numbers her stomach already knew. If she stayed much longer, she would join the valley's collection. She nosed toward the exit line. A streak rose from the far slope. Not a tracer. Not a bird. A rocket with a promise. Enjoying the tension? Hit like and subscribe for combat rescue storytelling, female pilot courage, and behind the mission breakdowns. Don't miss part 3. Pedals Dead is a special kind of quiet. The helicopter still flew. It just refused to listen to the feet. Yaw crept in like doubt. Natalia countered with cyclic and collective. Ugly, effective. She made the aircraft honest again by force. Tail rotor nicked, Singh said, reading the needles. Not a nick, she said. A mood they could limp. They could not loiter. But the column still moved. Men do not cross mountains at the speed of fear. They cross them at the speed of boots. She marked a ridge beyond the culvert. If the survivors reached it, they would vanish into folds of earth even drones found boring. Boring is salvation. The bowl was angrier now. Guns traded positions. Mortars learned. The air smelled like wet iron. She dropped supply pods by hand. Tourniquets. Bandages. 3 magazines taped into fat bundles. A roll of chem lights for night that would come whether anyone wanted it or not. Command? Singh tried again, static, then a fragment. Do not repeat, no bird zoom, the rest swallowed itself. They were alone by policy now. Not a surprise. Policy arrives late to rescue and early to blame. Natalia took the aircraft back to the seam and held her body still as a rifle rest. The door gun spat. Short, surgical. She wasn't hunting kills. She was buying seconds, the seconds added up. So did her fuel burn. A smell crept in under the raw kerosene. Hot, insistent. Not electrical, hydraulic. She scanned the panel. A pressure line ticked down a hair at a time. A slow leak-acting patient. Time? Singh asked. On what? Everything. She didn't answer. Not out loud. She could feel the answer in the stick. It had grown heavier. The machine was telling her what it could still be, a flare of movement on the ridge. Not enemy, a mirror flash, intentional, 3 short. 2 long, 1 short. A code she had not seen since the course where they taught you how to think without a radio. She angled the nose and gave a tiny rock of the disc in reply. The mirror flashed again, then vanished. Whoever was up there had a plan. Plans could be traps. They could also be the only thing left. She did a low run over the culvert. The last squads dropped into it and crawled like they were learning to be Earth. Good. The bowl began to lose its meal. Then the air changed. She felt it in her ears before she saw it. A pressure wave. Deep. Wrong. The mortar team got lucky or got help. A round hit a shelf above the culvert. Rock moved as if it had always wanted to. The shelf cracked. A slab slid. The throat began to close. Natalia had seen doors slam. This was a lid. She punched power and bit into air that didn't want teeth. The rotor disc clawed. Shrapnel hissed through the wash. She set the skids onto the moving slab and pinned it with weight she could barely spare. For seconds, the aircraft became a wedge. The culvert breathed again. Men shoved through, hands on rock, eyes on nothing but light. Hydraulic pressure bled another notch. Singh watched it the way you watch a candle in wind. Go, someone below shouted. She didn't, not yet. She waited for a last helmet to vanish under the lip. Then she lifted and the slab dropped and the cut sealed like a wound that wanted to stay closed. They had a ridge to reach and a mirror ghost ahead. She traced the route with her mind and found a path that was half math, half lie. Sometimes lies save you. She hoped this was one. A single shot rang clean across the bowl. It had that sharp, flat sound of a rifle fired by someone who knew the story was about to turn. Want more edge-of-seat extractions and female pilot heroism? Subscribe now and turn on the bell for part 4. This is where impossible gets specific. He didn't fire. He held the sight on her and waited. Waiting is also a weapon. Natalia held hover. Her tail wanted to swing. She let it a little, like giving a dog some leash. The rifle dropped a degree. His left hand opened, palm out, then closed into a fist. Then one finger extended and drew a line toward a chute she had not noticed. A goat path cut into the ridge. He wasn't her enemy. He was their lost compass. Maybe he'd been cut off when the valley snapped shut in the night. Maybe he'd just refused to die on schedule. She gave him a nod with the nose. He moved. So did the shadows behind him. 6, 7, 10 men, faces streaked, eyes raw. They looked like they had been chewed and spit out by the mountain. She laid smoke behind them to erase footprints no one had time to count. The bowl coughed more fire, angry at the theft. Her hydraulics bled another hair. The cyclic had a new stiffness, the kind that turns wrists into truths. She adjusted her expectations. No aggressive pulls. No last-second saves. Clean lines only. Fuel at red, Singh said softly. He wasn't asking anymore. He was naming the weather. Copy the weather, she answered. Her mouth was dry. The sentence felt like gravel. They reached the goat path's midline. Beyond it, the earth folded down in a series of terraces, old farming scars, abandoned, perfect. She could cycle short lifts from terrace to terrace. Not a full evac, a relay. Carry 10, drop 10, return. Like bailing water from a ship that hates the sea. Impossible math with a dying tail and a leaking heart. But sometimes you don't solve the equation. You outrun it. She sat down on terrace 1. Skids kissed soil. The aircraft shuddered with a rumor of failure and then decided to behave. Men ran into the cabin like a tide that had learned restraint. She counted by boots, not faces. 12. 13 if you included the one who refused to lie down. She included him, she lifted. The tail drifted. She corrected with a small ugliness she hoped no one saw. Terrace 2 was a note higher on the scale. Wind liked to sing there. She listened. She put the machine where the song made sense. They spilled out. They were lighter and heavier at once. Light with lift, heavy with hope. She returned for more, again. The pattern made a rhythm. Rhythm breeds belief. The bowl could feel belief slipping away like water through straw. Mortars reached for the terraces. They were good. They were late. Every round that fell on dirt no longer holding men was a round turned backwards. Her hands began to shake between cycles. Only between. During the approach and lift, the shake stopped. The body knows when to borrow stillness. A blast took a bite from Terrace 1. Soil slumped into a raw mouth. The next landing would be harder. She recalculated in a glance. The math was cruel and not entirely honest. She flew the lie anyway. On the fourth lift, she saw motion at the rim. Not a gun. A truck nosing to the edge, black canvas flapping. Men in the bed pointing, then ducking, then pointing again. Heavy weapon. Tripod. They wanted to turn the valley into a tutorial on regret. She landed hard on the fifth run. Too hard. The left skid dug and bit and threatened to hold her like a jealous friend. She blasted power and the aircraft bullied its way free. The man with the mirror climbed aboard last. He pressed something into her palm as he passed. A strip of cloth. White once, now speckled with mountain rain and someone's blood. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. Singh looked at her hand, then at the panel. The hydraulic light blinked its small, patient blink. Fuel sat on the line where you stop calling it fuel and start calling it a number. They had one more cycle in them. Maybe two if the air forgave. The truck at the rim found its courage. The barrel tipped down. The first burst chewed air where her rotor would be in 3, 2, locked in. Hit subscribe for the rest of this female pilot rescue and share to boost this true-to-life combat extraction series to more viewers. White is not empty. It is everything at once, light, dust, fear, relief disguised as blindness. When vision returned, it came in slices, a rim of rock spinning, a smear of smoke. The dash light steady now, not blinking. Hydraulic pressure had decided where it wanted to live. Low, stubborn. Natalia felt the tail talk through the seat. A slow wobble. Predictable now. She could write its language, they were heavy. Too many souls aboard. She would not set any down. Setting down makes promises you cannot keep. Terrace 3, Singh said. Too hot, she said. 4. 4 is blown. Then we make 5. 5 wasn't real. Not until a pilot says it is. She dived and used rotor-wash like clay. It carved a flat from a tilt and dared the slope to argue. Skids kissed. Men jumped. The aircraft lightened by exactly the amount her heart could stand. She climbed and banked and saw the goat path swarm with the last file. A line of helmets like river stones. They were out of the bull's throat and not yet into the mountain's teeth. The truck on the rim fired blind. Its tracers searched for faith. Faith hid in new places. Natalia stole one last load and ran the mountain's spine like a tightrope. Air turned thin. Engines sang that strained high note you hear when metal works overtime. Ahead, the ridge that meant out. Beyond it, radio, fuel, maybe help behind debt. She hated debt. She set her last lift down in a saddle where the wind was honest. The men spilled and formed a perimeter without being asked. They had been taught by the valley. She hovered a hand's width off rock and looked back over the bowl. The smoke had a new color, dark oil. Something burned that should not burn. Her tail wanted to swing left. She let it, then corrected with a touch so small only the machine noticed. Fuel, Singh whispered as if volume could change math. Yeah, she said. She could leave now and make it home and bring back another bird with a fresh tail and a belly full of fuel. She could also fail to return before the mountain's clock ran out. Rescue has a speed. Guilt has 10. She pointed the nose back toward the bowl. Again? Singh asked. She nodded. His silence said more than yes. The ridge rose to meet them like a polite refusal. She skimmed over and dropped into the bowl's shadow one last time. Silence greeted her. No tracers. No boastful bursts. Just the scrape of wind against rock and the small human sounds of men lifting men. At the seam where the culvert had sealed, a new path showed. Not a culvert. A crack in the fallen slab just wide enough for a body sideways. They had made it with hands and stubbornness. She followed the line until she saw the last group. 20 men, 2 litters. One radio on a string that kept pretending it had something to say. She flared and hovered and felt the tail threaten to write a story with a bad ending. She bullied it into a better draft. The litters came first, then the man who tapped the mirror against her door sill twice, a thank you that sounded like a promise. Last 2, Singh called. They ran. They were younger than her guilt. They dove in. She lifted. The truck on the rim appeared again, uglier now. It had learned to anticipate. It fired where she needed to be, not where she was. She needed a new place to be, somewhere both stupid and true. The cliff's face held a thin watercourse, a thread of wet that ran all year. She aimed into it. The spray hit the disc and the machine lost a bite of lift. She traded lift for life. The burst raked the air where her tail had been. She scraped past rock with inches she would count later. A smear of paint on stone, a souvenir for the mountain. They cleared the rim. Air expanded. Sound changed. The bowl was behind them. Ahead, a shape rose in the far haze. Not a ridge. Something moving. Big, fast. Don't miss the climax. Subscribe for the finale of this 480 soldier rescue. Female pilot versus time and the twist that almost ended it.